Hi, Heather.
Morning.
Good morning, Jeffrey. Good morning, Heather. It is. Can you hear me, Heather? I see your screen. No? Okay. She might be away from her space right this moment because we're
Mhm.
still. How are you this morning, Jeffrey?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm good. I'm a little tired today, actually. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
why. I was quite exhausted. I fell asleep on my couch yesterday, like out cold. I don't know if
Mm-hmm.
it's all this napping or eating. I don't know what it is.
Well, the energy is just a little heavier, and a lot of people are tired. I'm not sleeping as well, and uh, for me, the key is not to think that if we're tired, it's bad. It's just
Mhm.
we're given this opportunity to rest.
Yeah, well, you know what? I've been resting and again, sleeping sometimes better than other times, but probably more than I did all of 2019.
Yeah. Hmm. Hmm. It's
That's
interesting. Our son, he's the type A that works at the bank, is saying he's feeling better because he's getting good sleep, which is interesting because it's pointing out to us how our sleep habits have not been really that great before this. And so,
oh, for sure.
yeah, he had colitis. He had his colon taken out, so he also has arthritis and stuff like that, and aches and pains. And he's saying, since this is happening, he's sleeping better. So,
That's great. I'm just going to also text. I know someone who wants to get on the call, so I just want to make sure she was able to get the link. Just going to wait a couple minutes because I know people.
hmm.
All right.
I think we're sort of fading into that state where we don't have to be, anywhere. It's not important to be on time, and
Yeah.
so there's some interesting habits that are being formed, and I think
That's
one of
interesting.
them is there's no rush to go anywhere, no rush necessarily to get out of bed, that kind of thing. So
Mhm.
it's.
I I noticed I'm looking at my top. My top in my TV days would be called that it's kind of dancing. See how it's moving?
Hmm.
Yeah, and it could be distracted. So I'm going to do this. Oh, yes. Oh, she's just jumping on the call. Beautiful.
Hmm.
Okay, great. Yeah, it's interesting our habits. You know what? I was a morning person.
Hmm.
So I like to get up 5 a.m., 5:30, like love it, love it. Even if I could get up at 4:30, I would. There's something about feeling that everyone is sleeping and I'm up. I don't
Hmm.
know, it's that energy and it's a calmness out in the world. Um, but I can't now. I have done the opposite now. I am a night owl. Like I am watching my Netflix movie very late and waking up. And I know some people would say that's crazy, Mary, that's still early. I'm waking up 8 o'clock.
Hmm.
And for
No, I
me,
think that's great.
that's it. But it feels late. But I like the old pattern. It's interesting.
Well, yeah, but and you're liking the old pattern better because you don't like this pattern, and Sheltasar says we learn by comparison. So there's
Mhm.
really a great opportunity in having these new habits and these new patterns,
Sure.
so that we can decide which one we really like. It's interesting. My first coach, Robin Sharma, taught me to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and for years I would get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and that's when I would, do my journaling and meditating. He called it
Yeah.
the holy hour, and there is a certain peace and calm. And now that you mention that, I kind of miss that because I sleep in as well. But I got new rituals, and when I stay in bed, I give myself Reiki and I transition into the day, which is a little bit
That's
different than
interesting.
I used to. So, and I've said it many times. I really believe that this COVID-19 situation is an opportunity for us to try new things, new patterns, that maybe we were
Yeah.
stuck in the old patterns.
Yep. I'm just someone is their computer's a bit slow to come on, but good morning, Michelle. Good morning, Heather. Jeffrey and I were just having a little conversation, so you might have heard part of it. I know that Phyllis is jumping on soon, so I think we get started. I always say whoever's on this call is on the call, and they're supposed. Someone said that to me many years ago, and before I got into more of my spiritual journey, I hated that
Mm-hmm.
because I think it was a control thing. It's like, what do you mean, who's ever on the call? Now, I love it because it's the heaviness and the responsibility of having to be a certain way has been lifted, and it's like, we've had some amazing calls with 4 people. We've had amazing calls with 25 people,
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't make a difference because whatever we're supposed to learn, we will be on this call.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because for the longest time I tried to control things, and
Mm-hmm.
even to this day, when I have clients that cancel, I've really and I it's not faking it anymore. It's like, oh, that's meant to be, and
Yeah.
I often find that in that hour something else happened, and so faith is really really important if you're going to surrender. And there's a lot of talk about surrendering out there because there's so much in COVID-19
Mm-hmm.
that's beyond our control. And so practicing surrender, I think, is really important. And if you're prepared to give up that control and surrender, and you have enough faith, I think you'll find that things go easier for you and that there's less suffering. I think often our control
Yeah.
equals suffering. We don't realize it, but if you stop and think about control, you're pretty tight, right? It's like, I need this to happen. I want this to happen,
Yeah, I
and
agree.
yeah. So surrender versus control is a great practice during these changing times.
And I think you're right because I do believe right now this is one thing that we are being taught. We're being taught to what's it like to surrender. Like, a perfect example, I had my son who said, oh my goodness, the fridge isn't full like it used to be, because I could go, like, I mean, I don't want to go into Costco where there's a million people, so we're doing online groceries.
Mhm.
But when you get your groceries, you may not get the full list that you you ordered.
Mhm.
um, and it's a little odd because coming from immigrant background, the fridge was always full. That was your
Mhm.
thing. Food was a staple in some ways. So my son's like, I don't know what to eat. There's not there. There's no, and I remember his frustration was kind of causing my frustration to come up a bit.
Mhm.
And then I calmed down and I went, this is how it is for the time.
Mhm.
Let's be grateful there is food. There are some people who don't have that. And that surrender was like, the fridge is still full, people. Like, you know, um, but it just relaxed me. And I think it just made him see it a different way rather than see it the old way.
Right. And I think that's really the power of COVID-19 is to be able to see things differently. It's so interesting. And I think a few weeks ago we were talking about art and the pictures in behind you, and how my wife is an artist, and she'll create a new picture and it's really amazing, and a few months later you just don't even notice that picture on the wall or that piece of art on the wall.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's really important that we take advantage of things being shaken up a bit,
Mm-hmm.
in a conscious way, not just in a griping way saying, well, it isn't the way it used to be. There's an opportunity to say, well, this is how it used to be, this is how it is now.
Mm-hmm.
Let me think about that. Let me understand the change and why I feel that way. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, maybe a fridge not being full is really a fear of going hungry.
Mm-hmm.
So we have so much time. I really hope that people aren't wasting that time
I agree.
by not being conscious. If you can just take some time. And it's interesting, before we got on the call, usually, Mary, you give us an update and tell us what week we're in. And I think this is week 6.
Week 6, yes.
Yeah.
I'm
And I
off a
was
little today, I think.
and I was thinking, well, what's the difference between week 6 and week 1?
Maybe that's why I didn't say it. Maybe I just felt like we're just in it at this point.
Which is really, isn't that phenomenal? Isn't that phenomenal?
Yeah.
Because really, when we stop and think about it, what difference does it make whether this was week 1, 3, or 6? it kind of all feels the same, doesn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
here we are. It's Tuesday at 10 o'clock, right?
You know what? That's a great point, and I want to say to everyone, when we started these calls, I honestly, I think consciously, I thought week one, week two, and there was going to be this difference.
Mhm.
But as we continue, I'm like, it's just all kind of melted in together. I mean, we're still waking up, we're still doing what we need to do, and then we're going to bed, and we're getting back up. Either doing the same thing or adding a something different to our day as well.
Yeah.
Something that Michelle just posted, how she said her daughter also is missing her favorite ice cream that she used to get from Costco. Michelle, I'm getting it totally. Like my kids, certain things. Um, this is how I feel at times, not a lot. And I know Jeffrey will have, I kind of know what Jeffrey's going to say now. I know him well enough. And not 100%. I don't want to make you so predictable, Jeffrey, with me now.
Well, consistent. I like to think of myself as
Consistent. I like
consistent.
that. I like that.
Thank
I
you,
like
Mary.
that. So this is my question is, and I think maybe parents are feeling this as well. Our kids are having their issues and they're coming to us. And is it also that we can't provide or do certain things, or we can't fix what they're feeling? I don't feel it often now because I have surrendered. But again, as I said, my son mentioning about the fridge, there was a moment of, oh,
Hmm.
like I don't want him to have to feel this, but maybe this is what he needs to feel to understand gratitude,
Hmm.
right?
I agree. I agree. And I will suggest that it tends to be, more prevalent in mothers. And I'm not saying that in a sexist way. That's just the nature of motherhood. Mothers carry the children. And there is a great desire to fix. And I think, again, that's what COVID is trying to prove to us. We can't fix it. We really can't fix it. It's an invisible enemy. And if we're going to get it, we're going to get it. And we could try to fix it by wearing masks and social distancing and all of that. But I think it's a tremendous opportunity for us to realize how vulnerable we really are. And when it comes to parents, we can't fix our kids. And so, if we can't fix our kids, what else could we do? Well, maybe we could teach them resilience. Maybe we could teach them empowerment. Maybe we could teach them how to cope with different situations. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's really interesting if you get away from that trying to fix. And my wife and I always have that conversation, even though our kids are in their 30s, and now we've got grandkids, and Lois wants to fix the grandkids, but that's not your responsibility. And
Yeah.
she said, well, how come it's so easy for you not to try and fix the kids, or want to change them? And I said, it was something I learned in my coaching, because in the beginning I really wanted to fix my clients. I really, really wanted to help them, and I realized that I couldn't. I really couldn't. So to me, it helped me realize that we're much better off to empower other human beings than to try to fix them. Because if you think about fixing, okay, even though we think it's a good thing,
Mm-hmm.
it's really creating a reliance. It's not really a healthy thing. I mean,
Mm.
just think about it. If you want to fix your kids, flash forward 20 years, do you really want to have to fix them when they're adults and they have their own kids? So I don't think we're really doing a favor in fixing. And
Yeah.
and and that's the same thing, whether we're talking about governments or institutions. You want to empower versus fix, and it's a much different energy. It reminds me of that old saying. It's one of my favorites. You can give a person a fish and they can eat for
Yeah.
a day. You can teach them how to fish and they can eat for a lifetime. And that's, I think, what we want to try and do with our kids. I
Yeah.
mean, here it is, we're going through COVID-19, and as adults, it's a little bit scary, it's a little bit frightening, it's a little bit, there's a little bit of upheaval. Can you imagine a kid? Can you imagine a kid? And so, how do we help kids to cope?
Hmm. I'm going to open it up. Michelle, you have kids. Anything you want to add or anything that you've observed?
Um, well, mine are not really kid. Well, one's
Well,
not even a kid. One's an adult. But yeah, my daughter, that was the ice cream thing was like, it's from Costco, and I'm not going to Costco. I'm not going and standing in that line. It's just,
oh,
I've told her, we have to change things. We
yeah.
have to adapt to what we can get right now.
Mhm, mhm.
Um, I can't imagine though, really, like being a kid and going through this, how scary it could be, especially for some younger kids,
Mhm, mhm. Yeah,
because like Jeffrey says, it's causing us enough anxiety and things like that, because it's, well, again, it's just so big.
yeah, yeah,
Again, why not to watch the news, because that just gets you
yeah.
worried about things.
And something that just popped up in my head as you were speaking is the way our kids, or even maybe we even have a response, how we handle it. It's almost like modeling, right?
Yeah.
We handle that, we are panicking, we need more control. We're just making the younger generation, whatever age they are, think that that is okay. So it's almost like when you start with yourself, there's that ripple effect.
Mhm.
What do you think?
It's interesting. It brings to mind that Stephen Covey quote, "Begin with the end in mind." And Mary, you've heard me say this
Yeah.
many times. You know, while we have this time out that the universe is giving us, it might be a great idea to think about what is it that you want to instill in your children? What is it that you want to teach them? Now that we're sort of taking a break from formal education,
Mhm.
as parents, we have an opportunity to teach them the things that school doesn't teach them.
Yes.
And so what values, what principles, what ways of coping, it would be really interesting, for parents, if it's a single parent, then do it by yourself. If there are two parents, then sit down and say, okay, when this is over, I really would love to have been able to instill fill in the blank in our children. And what is it? A value of respect, a value of, there's this whole thing of activity versus boredom, right? We can't have our kids bored. We have to have them going, going, going.
My best ideas came out of me being bored.
Right, right. So, do we want to teach our kids to cope with boredom? Do we want to teach our kids to amuse themselves? Do we want to teach our kids to understand
Yeah.
vibration and energy and what makes them feel good and what doesn't make them feel good? Uh, it, it's so interesting, and maybe that's the only difference between week 1 and week 6 is week 1 was kind of new, and week 6 is, been there, done that. And it's really important, I believe, to keep it fresh, to keep it innovative, to keep it creative, because otherwise we're just falling into another routine. It's just a different routine. It's a self-isolation routine as opposed to an out and about, go to school, go to work routine. And so maybe we want to realize that we need to reinvent our routines every 3 months in our life.
Like
Every
that.
time, whether COVID is here or not, let's sit down, be conscious. What routines are working for us? It's like, your daughter, Michelle, if she has that same ice cream for the rest of her life, she's really depriving herself of all of the other great ice creams that might be out there, right? So what can we do to shake things up? I believe it's really, really important that we need to try new routines, okay? Because isn't it fascinating, that week 6 is getting sort of the same old,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
want to I want to say good morning, Phyllis. Phyllis is joining us
Thank
too.
you. Sorry, I was having computer issues, but I'm here.
That's okay. We're talking about
Thank you for
just
having
you
me.
not a problem. Jeffrey just finished, and I really love that. Is that even when COVID is done, creating new routines every 3 months, like
Yeah.
what works, what doesn't. And you're right, Jeffrey, when you talk about school, the way in our household, I'll say this, I've never really liked the school structure.
No.
I've been
No.
a vocal person in my children's education, because I truly believe we should be starting with meditation in schools. So now I'm excited because I get to do it the way I want to do it.
Mhm.
So they have a gratitude journal. They oohed and awed, and at first, now it's like, that's how we do school. We meditate together. And then, we do certain staples like English, a bit of math, but then we also do what I love, social studies, that we learn about the world. They pick a country and we learn all about that country, what they produce, their culture, everything. And then, I've always done this. My kids can negotiate anyone under the table at this point. I believe in creating kids that are street smart, understanding people, and giving back. So we have a class about what that looks like.
Fabulous, right? It's so interesting that as parents, we're so easy to criticize the education system without owning the
Right.
responsibility of
Yep.
what else. Like finances are not tend not to be taught
And I
in
think that's so
school, and
important.
there's emotional intelligence tends
Yeah.
not to be taught in school. So, here's an opportunity for us to mm, examine what's important in terms of our children's education instead of just complaining about the Ministry of Education for not teaching. I was talking to my wife the other day saying, it's kind of interesting the opportunity that we
Yeah.
have, because now we have this online teaching. And I said, it might be interesting to see when this is over how online teaching, is going to affect the way the kids learn. Maybe they're going to go and all sit in a big computer lab and learn, and then they'll take breaks for gym or
Yeah.
for drama or for music. And what came to me was very interesting. Students tend to learn differently. We all have a different way of learning. Some of us are visual, some of us are auditory. And I don't know about you, I certainly remember growing up, and even for our kids, we would always complain that this teacher didn't teach very well to our kid, and the next year we'd have a great teacher and they taught really well to our kid. Well, I was thinking, sort of dreaming, saying, wouldn't it be interesting if artificial intelligence was able to understand your learning method for the child and be able to teach that way? And so that you, instead of having one teacher out of 5 that really teaches to your way of learning, every year you are going to have the proper way of learning, because artificial intelligence is going to give you the learning that way. And my wife said to me, "Oh, that's interesting. I wonder, is that done yet? Is that invented?" I said, "Well, I don't know." And I was talking to a client a few days later at telling her, and she said, "Oh, yes, I saw somewhere in the world where they're starting to work on that kind of thing." And so, isn't it fascinating? And that's why I'm going to, the big theme today is don't get bored with the routine of COVID-19. Mix it up, change it up, because if we get bored, we're just making this routine, in place of the other routine we had pre-COVID-19. If we continue to stay fresh, if we continue to stay inspired, we will have these new ideas. And we have to be careful. And there's something to be said about routines, because no matter what the routine is, you get lulled into that false sense of habit. And I think that there's an opportunity to shift that. And so, yeah, Mary, I kind of like that idea I came up with too. And that's every 3 months, shift your habits.
I love it. I have a friend, actually, when you say that, every 5 years, her and her husband sit down and assess should they still stay married or not. But they do it in a fun way, and keeps it fresh. Good for them.
Well, right. And whether it's stay married or stay in this job, or
Yeah.
stay in this house, or do the meals the way we want to do them, there's this opportunity. And again, I think that freshness is getting a bit stale, because when COVID-19 hit, there was that, hey, we better adjust. But with week 6, we're losing that. I think we're losing that ability to reevaluate what we're doing and how we're doing it, and seeing if there is better ways. Back when I was in business, I think there was this, I forget when it came out, but there was continuous improvement manufacturing, where you were continually looking at what you were doing and looking to improve it. Well, as a human being, why aren't we doing that? Why aren't we working on continuous improvement? What makes us more happy? How can we change the ice cream that your daughter likes so she can find a better ice cream?
If you have, I'll let Michelle. Okay, I have a place for you, Michelle, because I had to do the same thing. But just to answer to Jeffrey, it's almost when you were speaking, what comes up for me, it's almost like before we were living a life of being just very robotic. Like someone hit play and we were going, and you're right. I feel in week 6 there are probably, and maybe it's a habit in how we move as people, is that I can feel that there's, again, play has been hit and it's been robotic in isolation.
Mhm.
And so maybe COVID is also to make us become more conscious and aware that, hey, what's going on? That we get to empower ourselves and create the life that we want. Just like the education system, that what we're doing for our children right now at home. I get to, and that excites me.
Mhm.
And I think
Right.
it's the same way in our lives that, before COVID, it was for some people or even entrepreneurs, get up, whatever you did is check your emails, go on Facebook, blah, blah, blah. That I remember even before COVID, I was getting a little going, is this what I'm going to be doing every day?
Mhm.
I don't like that pattern doing it for, like, there was this awareness going, what's going on? But did I change it? No. I just
Well,
went,
and
it
that's
wasn't
interesting.
different.
That's real interesting.
And
There's a
if someone
couple.
wants to have their comments as well, we'd love to hear about it. Go ahead, Jeffrey.
Yeah, it's interesting how we get lulled into this routine, uh, and sometimes we think about I want to change it, but then it takes the courage and the energy required to make the change.
Yes.
I think it's really important. One of the things you could do is on a weekly basis evaluate what's going well in your life and what's not going well in your life. What you want. A few weeks ago we talked about the what you want more of and what you want less of. But to start looking at what's right and what's wrong on a weekly basis. Like your friends that decide if they want to stay married every 5 years. Well,
Yeah.
that's good enough for staying married. But if we incorporate into our weekly routine
Mhm.
an evaluation, I remember my first coach, Robin Sharma, he made me do something called a weekly review and plan, and it was thinking back during the week what I did, what worked, what didn't work, and then setting some intentions for the following week in terms of maybe doing them differently. And one of the things that I like to recommend that helps to do that is what I call going up to the mountaintop. Often we get so stuck in the minutia of life that we don't see the bigger picture. And once again, COVID-19 is giving us a great opportunity to see the bigger picture. So what would it be like if you climbed up onto the mountaintop and looked down into your life, looked at your career, looked at your family, looked at all of those things from more of a bird's eye view as opposed to in the swamps, in the trees, right? There's that old saying, often you can't see the forest through the trees. So you have to get up and it's sort of like a military. The general is atop the viewing stand, looking
Yeah.
at out into what's happening. It's really important for us to take that mountaintop view of our life. And one of the things that I find when I do so, I get to notice trends because you look back over the last number of years, you look at even over the last few months, what habits am I picking up that are really not serving me? What could I be doing differently? Getting that mountaintop view, I think, is critical in being
Interesting.
able to see what's happening in our life.
Mhm. But and something that came up for me is when you were speaking. First, I want to say good morning, Geetha. Thanks for being on the call. Hi. Is that I think COVID is making us be more responsible for our life. That's what I'm getting from this, rather than complaining, I'm bored before, or someone might say, oh, I'm not making the money that I am, or I'm not getting the clients I want, or I haven't found the love of my life, whatever. We are responsible now. And so we may have to go to the mountaintop and look down and go, okay, well, if that's an area in my life I don't like, well, let me look at it from, as you said, bird's eye view and see what role am I playing in this? Or am I even playing a role? Or am I just kind of just moving through life and coasting?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
It's more of a
no, that's a great point. That's an excellent point. And I credit you for realizing that you are responsible. You're
Yeah.
one of the conscious ones. If you sort of look in social media, you see the ones that are complaining and blaming, and those are the ones that are expecting someone else to take care of them, criticizing. I mean, to me, I
Interesting.
certainly wouldn't want to be in government or any place of high authority making the decisions that have to be made. And I kind of resent the people that sit back who have never taken on the responsibility of public life or higher responsibility, and they're sitting and complaining. We shouldn't have done this. We should do this. I think that, and Shelton Butler makes it very clear, the greatest power we have is being responsible for how we respond. And so it doesn't really matter what the government is doing. It doesn't matter whether this lockdown is going to end soon or it's going to end in a long time. What are we going to choose to do about it? And so I think you raised a really, really great point. You will find that when you accept the responsibility for your life, you feel much more powerful.
Yes.
I think when we
Yeah.
think that the government is doing it or the education system is doing it or my boss is doing it, we feel powerless. And I think this is an opportunity, even though we're in self-isolation, to realize I get to choose my routine. I get to choose what I do. I get to choose, okay? They say you're only supposed to go to the grocery store once a week. Well, I didn't find everything I wanted at one grocery store, so I went 3 times this week, but I was safe. I wore a mask. I felt empowered to make those choices. I tried to be as socially conscious as possible, but I didn't want to necessarily follow rules that blindly would affect me. So being responsible is very, very powerful, and not blaming the government, not blaming this invisible enemy called COVID-19. What can I do about my current situation?
That's really interesting. Yeah, you're right. As you said, you went to the grocery store. We decided to do online, where it takes about a week and a half. But what we did was every time we pick up the new groceries, we put in the new order because it takes about a week and a half. It's almost like we created our own new system.
Right. Yeah. And that's great.
For us, for someone else, they want to go in. And Michelle, for the ice cream, if you have a Rabba, that Rabba store, because it's a kind of like gourmet. We have one in the city. Well, there's a few in the city, but the one in our location will only let 5 to 8 people in at a time. There's no lineups, nothing. You may pay a little bit more, but it's things like if you want nut butter or a certain ice cream. My daughter likes vegan ice cream. We're in this right now. So we found another alternative for those little things that make us happy. So for me, I feel that is our power, how we can adjust to these situations. And for me, that was like, oh my goodness, we came up with this.
Mm-hmm. Back to the kids. If you want to give your kids a gift, teach them about being responsible for their own choices. Instead of blaming a friend that snuffed them or a teacher that was this or whatever, how am I going to choose to respond to this situation? That's the greatest gift that we can give our kids, the power of personal responsibility. Because no matter how bad the world gets, we get to choose how we respond. And that's always been a powerful lesson that I learned from Sheltazar that has really helped me through challenging times, because I just sort of realize when I'm going down the rabbit hole or going down the wormhole or going off on this tangent, hang on, am I choosing to bitch and complain? Mm-hmm. Because what good is that going to do me? The person I'm bitching and complaining about doesn't hear me. I'm just ranting. Yeah. So what is it I'm going to do? Our youngest son, was saying he's in California with his wife. She's from California, and they got stuck there, which I think is really kind of nice because the weather is a lot better there. And he's saying, I think I'm finding that I'm an activist, right? And he starts ranting about everything that's wrong. And I said, I think it's great that you're an activist, but why don't you be an activist for something more positive as opposed to complaining about what's wrong. What are you going to do to change the world instead of just complaining about how everybody else isn't doing it right?
Yeah.
And he thought for a moment. And so I think it's important, and he's in his 30s, so it doesn't really matter how old your kids are. We have the opportunity to teach them personal responsibility. What can I do about this situation? When this is all over, if there are things we didn't like, are we just going to keep complaining about it, or are we going to do something about it? Are we going to run for public office? Are we going to start a nonprofit organization? What is it that we can do to make our world better?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I used to say to my kids when they were in elementary school, if they complained about someone, I said, well, you know that 15-minute recess that you have? You get to choose how you're going to feel. You get to choose. If you hang around mean people or gossipy kids, guess what? That's what your 15 minutes is going to look like.
Mm-hmm.
If you hang around someone who makes you happy, guess what? I said, it's your responsibility. Don't complain if you don't like how your recess turned out.
Right.
And it's interesting, from that, I took that on for my own life. And I make a conscious effort now, and even more with COVID, who do I want to be around? Who do I want to be around? You know, we're all busy at times. So if Phyllis has heard me say this, is like when someone says, hey, let's meet for a coffee or whatever, who do I want to spend that 1 hour that I'm taking away from my family, taking away from my business, and now I'm going to spend a coffee? Do I want someone who is going to complain about everyone under the sun? Or do I want someone who might make me laugh? I may learn something. We could share ideas. And that, for me, has been huge, huge awakening.
I love that. I love that. I love that. And I'm going to suggest we go even further, because one of the things that we're noticing in self-isolation is all the content that's out there. And I think we should choose more responsibly the content that we want to invite into our world. I love the fact that you're willing to be discerning when it comes to people that you're spending time with.
Yeah.
Are we thinking about the content we want to spend time with? You know, there's so much choice. I mean, I have to tell you, the streaming, it's so hard to keep track of Apple TV and Netflix and Crave and all of those. Which content do you want to give your attention to? What posts do you want to read? What social media do you want to be on? Right? It's so easy to click, and the next thing you know, you've watched something on YouTube for 20 minutes and you feel like crap. And it's like, well, did I really choose that I wanted to watch that? Or did that part of me that wasn't personally responsible choose? So we need to become more personally responsible to the content that we allow into our life.
And again, that's what I'm thinking that's happening. This big thread is that we are responsible for how our life looks pre-COVID, during, and after.
Correct. I think it's so powerful to realize that we have that choice and we're giving it away. It's the old matrix, like we're in the matrix and we don't even know. And so something as small as content, because I think content is really hard to be discerning. There's just so much out there that you find your mind pulls you in this direction and that direction. And next thing you know, you've been mindlessly scrolling through the social media for a half an hour.
It's interesting that you say that. I find during COVID, and if people, I'd love to hear what you all have been doing a bit different. And for me, my whole team is on social media, and we have a company and the way we run it. But I, for the first time, am not as much on social media. It has been an incredible feeling, and yet my creativity has come up a lot more, and some new projects have come up. And I feel lighter, if that makes any sense. That's just what I've noticed, and I'm enjoying it. And there isn't this need, do I need to post? I will post when I want to post. And if you have faith and trust, and when I do, I find it's even more powerful than maybe even before. Like, you know what I mean? And I'm not saying in an egotistical, I'm just saying that my observation and how my energy has changed. Right. And I'm enjoying it again. Because there was a time where it's like, you almost thought it was this new routine you had to do. Some days you loved it and some days you didn't. So I'm open to hearing what you guys, everyone on the call, just some changes that you've seen for yourself.
I had mentioned on my conversation with Michelle that one of the things that, that I have always done, again, not to say, look at me, it's just that, I never listen to the radio. If it's, prevalent enough, somebody will tell me about it. And then I'm like, okay, if this is happening, it's happening.
Yeah.
But I don't actively participate in all the chatter that's going on, because I think if I go within, that has more answers, because we have all the answers within. We don't need to be listening to everybody and everything that's out there.
Absolutely.
And so for me, being in nature, I'm fortunate enough that I have 2 dogs that I have to go out no matter what. So that has been a blessing. And so I meditate in my walks with them, and I also spend time on my own as well. So I think that has been a huge blessing. And also to make people realize that I think that voice inside that you have will tell you what is true and what is not. And, so, and just like, we're having this conversation, it ultimately is about choice. You choose where to put your attention to, because photons will gather where you put your attention to. And that's when the density comes into being. And, when you put your attention to the creative side of what you want to do, then that's where your energy and focus will go, and that's what will start to materialize. And I've noticed that there are so many things out there that it's hard to figure out, like you guys were saying, where to put, but there's so much out there to learn at this time. It's incredible opportunity. It's just phenomenal. Things that we thought we didn't have time to do earlier, because we were so scattered in the day-to-day activities. Now we actually have focused time to take care of. So it's phenomenal. I think it's a great time for humanity to ground and to awaken, and it's a beautiful opportunity. It's like, I'm so excited about it.
Yeah. That's amazing, Geeta. And you know what? You can feel your energy even when you were.
Oh, I love it. Yes.
My vibration was going, yes, I love this.
I'm like that all the time.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree.
No different for me. Then it's like, for me, it's like, wow, look at this. What a great opportunity for the whole world to do it at the same time and to raise consciousness. It's like, wow.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
That's
You
amazing.
certainly inspired me, Geeta. I'd love to have you on my podcast. It's like, wow.
Ah, there you go. I love this.
Like, yeah.
Oh, Geeta's amazing. Amazing.
Yeah, because that's what the podcast is all about. Helping people integrate spiritual beliefs to make their life better. So please connect with me. I'd love to have you on the podcast.
Absolutely.
But see how this is a perfect example of not forcing anything. I just want to take a moment, and I'm getting goosebumps, that she is living in the moment. She's making conscious choices. She's realizing what she can do for herself, choices. And as she's, she got on this call, this was a choice, and she's sharing this, and I could feel her energy. All of us can. Next thing I know, you're on a podcast, and then I'm loving it. But do you know what I mean? Where someone else would have been, oh, I got to get on a podcast. I got to do this for my business.
I never force anything, Mary.
I know that about you. I do.
Things will always unfold the way they're supposed to happen. I always say I'm at peace with that. Whatever happens, and people are like, don't you have a website? Don't you have a website? You know what? It's supposed to happen when it's supposed to happen. I'm at peace with that.
Yeah.
It'll happen.
And that raises a really great point. And that is, this is a phenomenal opportunity to look at your spiritual beliefs, to look at something beyond the human world. And thanks for bringing that up, Geeta, because you're speaking my language and I love it. The language of going, the ability to go inward, the ability to connect to that invisible power. We can call it intuition because then it's not very spiritual. A lot of people believe in intuition. This is a phenomenal time to practice tapping into your intuition, right? You're at home, right? It's sort of like, I'm going to send a message to whoever and see if I get a text from them, right? I mean, it's like we can play these great games. Intuition isn't necessarily really a spiritual concept. It's just tapping into this invisible energy that's all around us, can we start to become more intuitive? And in order to do so, I believe we have to get out of our heads. We have to create that quiet spot. We have to quiet the mind, and we have to go inward. And, you know, there's no excuse. We've got lots of time to go inward. You know, back to that choice. Am I going to watch a Netflix movie, or am I going to go inward? Am I going to sit in silence? Am I going to meditate? Am I going to try sound therapy? I'm having so much fun with sound therapy. I'm finding these amazing artists. I found a gentleman in Australia that creates background music for meditations, and it's so powerful, and sound really just really moves my soul. So there's this whole other opportunity that doesn't require any playmates. It doesn't require any connection. It doesn't require technology or social media. It's just you and yourself and your inner being. And so, you know, if you're looking for something to change in week 6 or 7 or 8, whatever, however long this is going to last, go inward and begin to tap in to that amazing resource that we all have within us. Thank you for that, Geetha.
Yeah, that was and it's interesting. Geetha texted me while we were on the call. That's why if you notice, I look down sometimes because people are texting me.
I know, because I couldn't connect.
She couldn't connect, and she's like, "Oh, you know what? Okay, have a great call." And I went, "Oh no, you can." And something moved me to say, "Of course, you could still get on the call at any time." So you were supposed to be on the call, Geetha.
And to bring another perspective. What's kind of neat about these calls is that, you know, we keep doing them, and we just keep coming up with different stuff. And so this whole intuitive spiritual opportunity, you know, for those that are, you know, get their spirituality from their religions, they're being cut off because they can't have these gathering places. We can't go to church or to the mosque or to synagogues. There's an opportunity to go within and find that spirituality, because before there was religions, there was spirituality. And so we don't necessarily need the gathering place for us to connect to that invisible world. So, and once again, I want to reiterate, even if you don't do it from a higher power perspective, the power of intuition, the power of connecting with your mind, the power of manifesting, understanding the laws of creation is so powerful and so fascinating. You know, what's coming to mind is take a topic that you've never really looked into, whether it's intuition or spirituality or another religion, and delve into it. While we're here, while we're stuck in self-isolation, get into a topic that you have never really, it tweaked your mind. You know, wouldn't it be interesting to check out Buddhism? Wouldn't it be interesting to check out wizardry, right? The internet is just full of information. Have some fun and go on this journey of discovering something that you have always been curious about, but never have taken the time to investigate.
That's interesting you said that. I wrote down Buddhism as just before you said it, Jeffrey. Because I've always been, I mean, our whole family, it's so funny. I took a picture because we had Greek Orthodox Easter on Sunday, and I went to pick up the food from my mother's condo. She left it in the lobby. As I said in the post, is you can't keep a Greek mother for not feeding her family lamb. She is going to find a way. And I said to, so my daughter and I went and for the drive, and I said to my husband and my son, you guys are in charge of setting the table. This moved me so much. My son set the table, lit the candles, made my husband put incense to create an energy, he said. And he put, I don't even know where I have it. Here, he put in over Greek Orthodox Easter, which this little Buddha on the table with us, which made me realize that just because we're celebrating one, we're adding all these other beautiful elements. And he knew on his own, from what we've taught him or just the way we move in our family, to put that on the table. And I said,
but Mary, children are so connected though. I think when we put them in the environment, the environment changes them more. If we let them be as connected as they are when they're born, They're going to bring in all these elements to teach us because we've moved away from them.
Yeah. Well, and then there's that other side when they're mad at each other. Oh, you'll get your karma. That word, I'm like, guys, it does not work like that. I'm like, guys, it doesn't work like that. We don't throw it around like that. Anyways.
So I was at a class over the weekend and talking about Buddhism. One of the things that one of the teachers shared was there was somebody with lupus who had gone to a Lama, and one of the things that the Lama taught them was this Buddhist prayer about, you know, putting your hands in your heart, feeling it, and saying first to yourself, may I be safe, may I be happy, may I be healthy, may I live with ease. Then you picture your family, your friends, and strangers, and then you say the same thing with hand in your heart, feeling it, and saying, may you be safe, may you be happy, may you be healthy, and may you live with ease. And the third set of people to focus on are the people that you have disagreements with, people you dislike, people you have, you know, you disapprove of, you know, where you put your judgment in. Say the same thing, put your hand in your heart and you picture them and you say, may you be safe, may you be happy, may you be healthy, and may you live with ease. And the last one is to picture the entire world. And this is perfect for, you know, COVID-19 and what's happening is, again, put your hand in your heart and say, may you be safe, may you be happy, may you be healthy, and may you live with ease. What a beautiful thing to share for somebody, you know. And she said she got cured of lupus because she did this, you know, continuously 3 times a day. It's like, you know, if somebody can do that, this can happen for all of us.
Yeah. Can you imagine? I mean, this is the idealism. Can you imagine if we all had a certain time, the whole world, and did that at the same time?
There are people doing it. Dr. Bruce Lipton on the weekend at 11 o'clock was creating this intention.
Bruce Lipton.
Yeah,
Dr. Bruce Lipton. He's the father of epigenetics.
Yes, and he and 2 other people created this 11 o'clock intention to sending it out into the world. You know, Buddhism is really interesting because it's one of the religions that doesn't focus really on the higher power. I had the privilege of being in Thailand with someone who has studied with the Buddhist monks, and I have to tell you that you know, the people who have studied Buddhism are the most psychic, mystical, intuitive people. They're tremendous healers because Buddhism is really more about a way of life than a particular higher power doctrine. So, and that led me to a thought that popped into my mind. Wouldn't it be interesting during our self-isolation if, no matter what religion you are, you took some time and looked in to the doctrine and the beliefs of other religions around the world? Just think about how that would create, especially for your kids. I mean, this is a great exercise for young people. We want to create religious tolerance. And often we're brought up in our own religion, sort of in this bubble. And it's sort of like, well, don't listen to the other religion because it might make you question your own religion. But I think the young people, as you said, Geeta, that they are really open to this. And so wouldn't it be interesting to understand, you know, another religion? You talk about Greek Orthodox. Well, why do they celebrate Easter when they celebrate Easter? Just from that sense of curiosity, looking at other religious beliefs, can you imagine the tolerance that we're going to build up when we start to understand from this inquisitive perspective how other people believe in this higher power?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's interesting. Does anyone else have any thoughts how they've kind of, like, just this time, anything they've changed or they've noticed about themselves? Phyllis, I know you want to. I see it. I see it. I see it. Turn on your mic, Phyllis. I know Phyllis well, so I can speak.
What's that?
I said I know Phyllis well, so I can speak to her like
that. Yeah, no. I mean, I don't know where to start. First of all, I just want to say this is absolutely brilliant, and I've been tearing up. I don't know if you've seen me doing this. It's because I'm tearing up. I'm very choked. You know, whether it's hormonal or week 7 or the energy, the group, whatever. So I thank everyone. I'm teaching online now, and I actually started last night. And, you know, it's been a learning curve with technology, but I'm basically saying to them, use this time and push the boundaries in terms of your creativity. I teach factual entertainment. And so it's digital and TV production and development. But I'm saying like I checked in with everybody, you know, hi, what's your name? What do you want to do eventually in the business? How are you feeling? How are you using this time? And a couple of them said, oh, I'm bored. And I said, unacceptable. I said, you're creative beings, right? You're directors and editors and DPs and whatever. You must take advantage of this gift of this time. And exactly what Jeffrey's been saying is watch content that's going to inspire you to be a better director or an editor or DP or whatever it is you're you know, dreaming to be. And I said, there's one thing I work really hard at being non-judgmental. And, you know, I think everybody deserves a voice and to be heard and to analyze and critique and whatever, but I won't accept bored or I'm bored. So use this time wisely because it is a gift, especially to you being creative. So, and I'm trying to practice what I preach as well. So it's really, really important that we be selective with, and I agree, and that's why I was tearing up with the energy we choose to be, you know, the people we choose to be around, the energy they're emitting, the content and the things we do, and cleanse, you know, mind, body, and spiritual cleanse, you know, clean out your closet and look at who your friends are or what you're doing with your life professionally, et cetera, et cetera. Cleanse, detox, choose wisely, choose from the heart. Don't you know, it's about getting off the gerbil wheel, right?
Yeah, that's great.
I love that. I love that. And as you're thinking.
Thank you. I mean, I could go on. I won't anymore.
And it is important to go on because that's the other thing. It's really important. It's so lovely to be on this call with a group of like-minded people that believe that we are in a time of opportunity, that we're in a time of change. There's so many people out there that don't believe that. We are creating an energy, and whether we like it or not, we are sending that energy because we are on the internet. We are creating invisible vibrations that are going out into the world. So thank you for saying that, and keep talking and keep sharing our beliefs about this being an opportunity. One thing when you're talking about creativity, I really think that we should be walking around saying, is this expanding my creativity or is this stifling my creativity? Because here's the newsflash, ladies and gentlemen, okay? We are going to need big change when this is over. And we better be using this time to connect with that creativity. You're talking about entertainment. Entertainment is going to change when this is over, right? We're starting to see streaming, the way TV is produced, the way content is produced. This is just the beginning of the change of how we are going to be entertained, how we choose to be entertained, and how content comes to us in different ways. So if you are not being creative, you will be left behind. You want to be on the leading edge. All of those people that you're talking to have the potential of coming up with new ways for us to be entertained. Yeah. We're going to come out of this period of self-isolation, and we're going to want to be entertained, and we're not going to want to be entertained in the way that we were when we were locked up. We're not going to watch the same kind of things. We're going to want something new. And so I really think it's important for each of us each day to walk around and say, what am I going to do to expand my creativity? What am I going to do to get in an expansive mode? One of the things I would suggest people do is take out their idea parking lot, create a journal, pardon me, get a journal that is just for your ideas. It's your private ideas. They could be as wild as you want them to be. And throughout the day, go to your journal and write down an idea, okay? Because that idea is energy, all right? And you may find when this is over, you're gonna have like 20 pages of ideas. And then when you reflect, you're going to say, oh, well, this one doesn't really apply. But if you wind up with a few good ideas that you share with the world, okay? And I would encourage you to tell other people to do this. And for trusted friends, get out your idea parking lot book and start sharing. It's like, hey, Mary, do you want to jump on a call and I'll share some of the ideas I've been having? Okay, don't hold those ideas from that old approach of competitiveness and holding on to them. Share them with your friends because it could inspire them for coming up with good ideas and new ideas.
Geeta?
Yeah, just one thing. In adding on to what Jeffrey is saying, before we go into that creative mode, go into very slow, deep belly breathing because it puts you in an alpha state. When you go into an alpha state, creativity rises more. You cannot do creativity from the upper lobes of the lungs. You have to breathe very deep into the belly, very slow breaths, and take it from the top of your head down through all the way down to 2 feet below to Mother Earth and have it recycle back up into your belly, hold it in your belly, very slow breathing, then get your creativity juices flowing and then it'll flow some more. The other thing I also want to add is a lot of people also awaken between the hours of 3 and 5 a.m. in the morning. That is creative time. So rather than saying, why am I up at this time, trying to fight sleep, go into either deep belly breathing, or get your pad out and, start writing because that is the most creative time of the, day for people to tap into. So a couple of other things to add on to these things.
Yeah.
Often referred to as the God hour.
Yeah, it's called the Brahma Muhurta, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. This has been.
Feel the energy. Feel the
That
energy.
was my hormones waking me up.
I know.
That's shifting energy, Phil.
I
You're just shifting energy.
You know what, Geeta, before you and Phyllis came on, it was just, Michelle, Heather, myself, and Jeffrey. And I said, the old me would have been trying to, fill it, where I was like, whoever's supposed to be here will be here. And this has been one of our smallest calls, like of people. And I think one of the most powerful ones, like what we got out of this.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So I always say, who's supposed to be here will be the lessons we're supposed to learn.
Yeah.
And it feels so light and amazing.
Yeah.
And
I'm at peace with that.
Yeah.
And thank you all because, and give yourselves a pat on the back because we did something for humanity today. We created an energy shift here. It's not like we were all together in Mary's house. We are in the ether. We are on the internet. Those waves are vibrating. Our enthusiasm, our excitement, our inspiration is going out into the world. So please thank yourself for making a difference in the world today. And that's how easy it is. Just being in self-isolation, we can have a major impact on the energy of our planet. So thank you.
This is amazing. Thank you. And I just want to end with, things are coming for some people full circle. For example, having Phyllis on this call, people who don't know, she gave me one of my biggest breaks in my media career in television. She was my producer back in the day when women weren't doing what I wanted to do. And she gave me that break and it changed my whole career. And now full circle, she is a H.U.B Inc. member. Mm-hmm. So, I just wanted to say that because you don't know what comes out of this, and just watching her here, it just fills my heart. It's amazing that we both at different times were able to give to each other. So we got to keep it together. Thank you, everyone.
Before we end, I just want to make a point. I know we're going a bit over. There's nothing like giving to someone else to make you feel good. And I'm feeling that energy of sharing. And so instead of focusing on poor me, I have to go through this, do me a favor and try an act of kindness to another human being every day. Yeah. Every day, whatever that act is, by giving to someone else, it boosts your spirit. It lightens who you are. And I think that's really important. And I'm going to suggest, I agree, I think it's extremely powerful with the group we had today, but we're going to do this again next week. Everybody bring a buddy, okay? Yeah. Bring someone who could benefit from this energy shift because we can't just keep it to ourselves. We've got to share it. I know my content creator and promoter turns these things into podcasts so that we can share them out into the world. but bring someone, whether it's to this call or to someone else. Be a buddy to someone who could use this
Absolutely.
energy shift. Find places that this energy shift can occur and bring someone along so that that act of kindness, that act of sharing will help change humanity.
Perfect. Thank you, Jeffrey. Thank you. Oh, Geeta?
Sorry, one last thing. Talking about, or continuing what Jeffrey's talking about, next week there is a healing transmission happening that one of my teachers is promoting. She does this once a month at the end of the month. So I'll send it to you, Mary. Maybe you can perhaps share it with everybody, because it's a healing transmission and, you know, the whole world plugs in.
Okay.
It's incredible.
Great. Thank you,
So.
Geeta. Appreciate it. Again, thank you, everyone. This was fantastic. And we will see you next Tuesday, 10 a.m.
Excellent.
Take
Have
care.
a wonderful week, everyone. Thank
Have
you.
a wonderful week. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.